Okie dokie.
Thank you, Beth. We will call the meeting to order at 6:05 p.m. And you're all set with your list, Cindy? Okay. Approval of agenda. I will entertain a motion.
Addison makes a motion.
And a second.
Rutland will make a motion.
We have Addison and Rutland. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote of approval. Say aye.
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 Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Secretary's report. Included in your packet. I would entertain a motion to approve the secretary's report.
Rutland County would make a motion to approve the secretary's report as presented.
We have Rutland and a second, please.
Windsor County. will
Wow.
second it.
I heard Windsor first. Thank you. Any corrections, discussion on the secretary's report? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Thank you. Treasurer's report, Patty?
Yeah. Okay, so this represents data through February 2022, or 5 months, or 42% of our budget season. So the income, again, I'm going to round numbers. You have the exact numbers in your packages, but 3.3 million for our budget for income. This month we had an activity of about 252K, of which 228 of it came from membership. Income to date is a little over 3 million. We're about 307,000 short of our budget expectations, and most of that is in the PR marketing and grants line item. We're about 420 less there, but that money is that pass-through money, so we'll see that come through, when we do the National Forest grants and the RTP grooming grants and stuff like that later in the year. So that money will come in and get paid out. So overall, our income's at 91% of the budget income expectations. And last year, this time we were at 92%. So we're really on par to where we were last year. As far as expenses are concerned, the budget is 2.7 million. This past month, February, was a low activity month of 119K, almost 120. And about 74K came from salaries, benefits, and operating costs. March, I've been approving things that Sheila's been sending me, so you'll see a lot of the grooming stuff come in the March report. But for through February, that's where the bulk of the money was spent. Expenses to date is 853,000. And we are currently at 31% of our expense budget expectations. And compared to last year, this time we were at 29%, so we're pretty much on par for where we were. That's it.
I will entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
Washington County will make the motion.
Have Washington and a second, please.
Second. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. I heard Rutland.
That works.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? Wow. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes. No tabled items, no consent calendar, no old business. New business, free weekend. Who is going to tackle that one?
I will. Sorry, I just realized I didn't put a name to it or an amount of
that's all
time.
right. I figured you would, but
Anyway, I just wanted to say first thing before I do that, Patty, I think you do an amazing job. Just so you guys know, she is in touch with us all the time. whether it's working on this or the awards, and nominating committee, but she's really doing an outstanding job. And she does ask questions, and that's just really just, to me, shows a tremendous amount of volunteerism and support. So I really appreciate that, Patty.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna second that, because I really appreciate the percent of budget and its comparison to last year, because sometimes, not that I don't almost make $3 million a year myself, but sometimes those numbers can be a bit big and just sort of just float out there as numbers. But to say, okay, we budgeted X amount, we've spent or we've received X amount of and then to compare it to where we were last year really makes it easy to bring back to the clubs and the counties to give them an idea where we stand financially. That's really appreciated, Patty. Thank
It
you.
adds a serious
Thank you.
touch of professionalism to the seat. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you, everybody.
It's awesome at trade shows too.
I think I'm going to shut my video off now. And thank you.
Looks like the heat just got turned up, Patty.
It really did. I was freezing a few minutes ago. I don't know what happened. Thank you.
All right. So anyway, free weekend, not really bringing too much to your attention right now, but just going to say that, pretty much every year you guys vote on a date and things like that. And, we've tossed it around in discussions. There are lots of discussions happening on the county and club levels about free weekend, regarding is it valuable or not? Is it the way we do it? Should it be that way? Is there extra compensation that should happen because the trails are getting hit so hard? There's all these things kind of floating around. So I just wanted to let you know that I have been, thinking about this and looking into it, and we'll be coming to you guys probably, not probably, but in the summer, to make a vote. But things to go back to and talk to your counties about is what they think the value of free weekend is. We have run some report numbers. I'm going to send you a report tomorrow. Unfortunately, I couldn't tonight get home. I am home. Couldn't get connected to the server, so I didn't send you an email. That Beth ran some reports to look at the 3-day TMAs and how those might be connected to free weekend. And there's not a tremendous amount that are connected to it. There are some people, like maybe 40 out of 800 that come for free weekend. But I think the concerns are very valid from clubs. And it's coming a lot from clubs that haven't complained about it or hadn't been concerned about it in the past. I don't want to say they're complaining, but they're concerned. And most of that is because the concerned areas have always traditionally been, Woodford or the Northeast Kingdom, because people, when we used to have reciprocal, they would ride out of there to go to New Hampshire and Maine and do a whole, reciprocal 3-day thing in all 3 states. So they would get hit the hardest. But now other regions have been really feeling it the last few years. So I just wanted you guys to give you a heads up, go back to your counties and your county meetings and ask, how they feel about it. If you want my opinion, I look at the numbers of the people that actually registered this year, and there were people that registered multiple times, but they had a lot of sleds. Majority of people that utilize this are coming from New York, or this year they did. I'm on the fence as far as if it's a value still to offer, because we do have a 3-day pass. So I'd really like to just see how the counties feel about it. One option that I thought of a week or so ago is maybe it's a midweek thing. Maybe it's a free, couple of days midweek. But anyway, Julianne, yeah.
Just a quick question. I know that people were hesitant about the registration, so I'm just wondering how accurate the data is with the registration.
Well, it's all voluntary. So it is very, there is no data to guide anything. These are just the people that registered to be here. You know, that's my other fear is that, you know, we have this free weekend and we don't have any kind of requirement. And I have to give the credit to Jim Hill because he's actually the one who came up with this idea a few years ago. Because I guess it's mandatory in Quebec that you have to register for their free weekend, is we're not capturing their signatures on any of our waivers. And so that's why we did the registration this year, but there's no state law that says they have to do it. That would be a statute change and that would take a year or two to actually even be able to institute. So I have a little bit of hesitancy anyway about keeping it just because of the fact that they're not, you know, a lot of these folks aren't signing waivers. But we've done it. And so I just would like everybody to go back and talk to everyone, you know, in their counties and we can keep revisiting every month or, you know, probably we'll vote on it in July is when I'll next put it on the agenda.
I wonder if once we start our own insurance or we're under our own insurance, is it even more critical that we have everybody signing off a waiver for the liability release?
I think that's going to be up to our insurance company. But I don't think it's any more. I don't think it's any more or less critical, Stan. I think it's just as critical to have people sign waivers. But it would still have to be a law change because it would have to be required. Law enforcement would have to have the ability to require that when they did safety checks and things like that on that weekend.
Jeff Halpin?
I just have a question on how it would get policed, I guess. I mean, we're asking if we did even make it mandatory, how would we actually police it? That's I guess, yeah.
It would be the same way we police everything. It wouldn't be 100%. It would just be who's out patrolling and who's doing safety checks. So that's why it's important for us to make sure that we do what we can to protect ourselves, the organization, knowing that, you know, it's not 100%, nothing is 100% policed.
Right.
Oh, they would print out something because they signed up. They would have something on them along with their TMA.
Yeah,
Or
they
not
did this year.
Yeah, without a TMA.
Yeah, they did this year. They got an email confirmation that said that they had registered and we asked them to carry it with them.
Oh, okay, all right.
Addison County has a question.
Go ahead, Louis.
Hello. Is there any way to track anyone, you know, that comes up for the free weekend and then buys a 3-day pass? So they're up here for a whole week. Is there a way to get that data also?
Yeah, I have it. I have it right here.
Very
So
many?
yeah, hold on. I'm going to share my screen. I know you can't see it, Louis, so we'll talk you through it.
Okay.
So there's the repeat 3 days we did, Beth ran. And so they're broken out into, she ran it for the 3 years. So the repeat 3-day, for all 3 years was 9. In 20 and 21, there were 33. And then in 20 to 22, there were 15. So these were the same people buying 3 days each year. And then 3 days. Yep. And then 3 days in conjunction with free weekend on either end. This year, there were 20 people.
Okay.
Last year, there were 9. And the year before that, there were 10. And then the 3-day totals in 2020, there were 784. In 2021, there was 1,006. And this year, there were 631. And see, remember I told you there were like 800 that registered? That was because I think there were multiples in there. I think people went in and did it over and over and over again because there was no fee to it. Like I have the list of people.
All right.
So
Just curious.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to give you guys something to think about. And if there's any other questions or research you want me to do in the meantime, shoot me an email. And, you know, all the other states and provinces do it, but it's, do we want to continue? And if so, how?
Is there is there any way that we can track 3 days that converted to a full season the following year?
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same thing. Now that we're
Yeah.
getting the sign up, you can.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely, we can. Beth, I don't know if she's still here. She's still here, but I don't know if she's here.
Yeah,
in
I'm
the
here.
room.
It's just,
Yeah, I could do that.
I don't think there's gonna be a lot. There'll probably be a few.
someday when you've got to spare a couple of minutes. Mr. Poulin,
Next year would be the year you want to look at how many bought full season passes that had signed up for free weekend this year.
Right.
Since we don't have a sign up last year.
right, but I was thinking out of those 3 days, did any of those 3 days convert the following year to a full season?
Oh, 3 days to a full season. Okay, got it.
Yep. But yes, you're correct that we can track anybody that signed up this year to that converts to a full season.
We can look at both of those. They're both good questions. I think the numbers are gonna be very low, but we can look at that.
Well, snow sucked this year.
Right, but we have 3 years of data now, so. Anyway, that's all I have unless anyone else has any other questions.
Anybody? All right, we'll slide into, what is our next item? Let me turn the lights on here. CPI. CPI, that would be Matt.
Yes, I drew the short straw when we drew straws between Brian, Ken, and I. So it's all pretty well summarized in my report. This is our annual request from the Trails Committee to increase the cap amounts on the equipment grants based on the Consumer Price Index. So the Consumer Price Index tables show that it was a 6% inflation rate from January of last year to January of 2021. So we are looking to increase the cap amounts to the amount shown in my report. So just to give you, last year, the 0 to 7.9 weeks was $35,100. With a 6% increase, it would be $37,200 now.
How much was it, Matt?
The
35 what?
$35,100,
Thank you.
and it would increase to 37.2. The 8 to 11.9 weeks was 52,500, and that would be increasing to 55,650. And the 12 to 16 weeks was 70,000. That would increase to 74,200. The Trails Committee voted on this recommendation, so we would just need an okay from the board on this one.
I will entertain a motion on increasing the grant caps to the CPI.
Washington County will make a motion to accept.
Rutland County would second that.
I have Washington and Rutland. Any questions or discussion?
Wait, I have a quick question.
Okay,
So Matt, we're looking at like, so it's when I do the numbers up real quick, I come up with like $9,450 would be like the increase, like for an actual dollar amount between all three of the week breakouts.
Mhm.
Is that correct? Did I do my math right?
Yes, that seems about
Okay.
right. Yep.
Okay. And how, we're not doing this every year, but it's recommended every year?
So we look at the CPI every year and it's different every year. So it varies. This is actually one of the higher years that I've seen since we started doing this. It's usually at most like 2 or 3. I believe, just trying to look at my report. I guess I didn't pop it in this one, but I believe it was 0 last year and 2.2 the year before, if I recall. So it's usually a lot lower than this. This is actually pretty significant. But I'm not a economist or a smart person, and I don't claim to be, and I'm stepping into uncharted waters, but I would almost guess next year would be pretty high as well, based on the way fuel prices and things are going. I just would suspect it would be high again next year. But basically what this does is it allows on the policy to increase the grant amount. It doesn't necessarily mean that the club will get that. If we have a lot of applications and everybody has to be cut back a little bit, that's certainly a possibility. So this gives me the ability to give clubs this maximum amount, but it doesn't necessarily mean they get that amount, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Hopefully they do, but.
I have a question on the what you were just saying about the last year. It says that in your notes, it says it was noted the rate was increased by the CPI in 2020, but it says the CPI was 2.2. In 2021, the CPI was 0 and no increase recommended. Have you ever had a year where you, like, say it was like 2.2%, but the VAST still didn't do any increase, or do they usually typically do it every year? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's happened before, actually, where we've had an increase, and it may have been 3 years ago, and I'm sorry I didn't look back far, but the Trails Committee voted to go with the CPI, and the board decided not to go with it. So that does happen sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just wondered. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Julianne?
I don't know if this question is appropriate here, but I was looking through the report and we're talking about grooming equipment. And I'm wondering why Lambert Farms is coming to VAST for a grant when he's a for-profit individual. He's not a club. He's not a volunteer-based thing, and that's taking money away from clubs that need money. I mean, I just, that doesn't make sense to me, but that's, and like I said, I don't know if this is the appropriate place or not, but I read your report. We're talking about money.
Not exactly, but we'll bring that up a little later.
Okay.
Good question. Try to see if I get anybody else out there that's hands up. Any other discussion or questions on the CPI? I will entertain a vote on the motion to increase. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion passes. Cindy, update on the administration request.
Okay, I'm right here. All right, so just to give you an update that the $1 million for equipment was pulled out of the budget by House Appropriations last week. It was done suddenly and it was done without testimony from VAST. And it has now gone, or is going over to the Senate. So I sent Senate Appropriations an email this morning, and I CC'd Pat on that email. And I sent it to the entire committee and addressed it to Jane Kitchell, who's the chair of that committee. And the reason I CC'd Pat is because I formally presented this request letter first to the Governor's Council, and Jane sits on the Governor's Council. Senator Kitchell does. I also testified over 2 weeks ago in House Transportation and Senate Transportation about this money, and Jane is also on Senate Transportation. Frank has also had conversations with Senator Mazza about this. So I detailed an email this morning and said that we would like to request to come in and talk about this. and hopefully to get the $1 million put back in to help us to continue to service our aging fleet and the importance of our trail system and things like that. So that's kind of where it's at right now. The other thing I added to, because one thing that House Appropriations did not take out was the money that the administration had put in for incentives for low-income Vermonters to buy electric snowmobiles and electric ATVs. And I said that I would like to address electric snowmobiles, that we've learned a lot in the last few weeks since Tyga was here in early March about the viability. I didn't say this in my email, but I lack of infrastructure. I did talk about infrastructure needs. And so anyway, so we're continuing to push for this, but this is how things happen. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get it put back in, or at least part of it, and express to them our need, and that this is a one-time ask. I, of course, did talk about this money is coming from federal dollars because of COVID. And there has been an increase on all trail systems. And I did outline that in my email as well today, that it's not just us using our trails, but there's a lot of non-motorized people that are also accessing our trail system, and especially since COVID. So I'm hopeful that today everybody had off, so I'm not surprised I didn't hear back from anyone, but I'm hoping for an invitation, at least an acknowledgement that they've gotten the email. I did include the entire Senate Appropriations Committee on the email. And so if we do, so how this would play out is, if we do get to go back in, I get to voice, how we feel about it and point out our need. And then again, about the electric snowmobiles and things like that. And then also, then what would happen is, then they would decide what they were going to do. And then the bill, it's the budget bill, it goes to conference committee, which is made up of the House and Senate appropriations, where you are not allowed to go in and testify after that. So it is a must pass bill because it's the budget bill, but that's pretty much the update that I have. I didn't know if anyone wanted to, if there are questions or anyone to add anything, or Pat, if you wanted to say anything. I know you saw the email today.
Yeah, I saw the email last week as they were pulling that out. We got some information from Representative Brian Smith, also, who's on the Governor's Council. He was all over that for us, but it didn't do any good.
Yeah, Brian was alerting us. We already knew because Frank's in there, and Frank's actually been going in person now, that they are letting legislators or lobbyists back in the door. But yes, it's always helpful. So I did include Brian on the email today as well, to have as many voices as possible there, as far as representatives go. Yeah.
Any
Calling
questions?
Kenny Gamble to go talk to Senator Kitchell? I know they've always been close.
Yeah, they're not close. No, this is one of those, it's
Just
always
kidding.
it's always very, very tricky. I also have to be really careful about what we talk about with electric snowmobiles, because that money was also put in by the governor, who also put our money in the budget. So, it's a fine line that you have to walk. It's just really just proving that we need it. We're not going to come back again and ask for it, and prove our need and all that kind of stuff.
And it's federal money. It's basically free money for the state.
Yeah, but that's a good point. But what happened is everybody and their brother did the same thing that we did.
Right.
And so when they had this huge bucket of money that they could give away, well, all of a sudden they have $80 million of requests above the actual money they have. So now it's like, what do you care about? Like, it's up to the individual legislators. That's why I say it's always important to be in touch with your local representative. Don't just vote them in because it's the same person that's been holding that position. Ask them what they stand for. And if you're interested, look look at Senate appropriations. You can just Google it, Vermont Senate Appropriations Committee. You'll see who's on that committee, what towns they represent, which one of them, Carol, just so you know, is Wyndham County, is one of the representatives on that committee. And then, you can always send your own email too and say, I sit on the board of VAST and this is important to us. And I'm more than happy to help you work out some language on that end too. But
Well, Cindy, that piece of legislation is kind of like our equipment grant process. We got a lot more applications than we have money for.
yes, sounds like your cat is hungry, and yes.
No, he's lonely.
Oh.
I don't think this was necessarily unexpected.
No.
For anyone who's Jesus, cat's being attacked by a giant cat. I don't think it's unexpected by anyone who has any familiarity with the way the legislature works. In fact, I think if it had sailed through with no questions asked and we got a check for $1 million on July 1st, that would have been a much bigger shock. It wouldn't surprise me if it settles at something smaller either. But you know it better, and you've dealt with down there pretty well over the years, Cindy. So we'll do what we can. I don't think any of us were counting our chickens either before the eggs hatched.
No, but we definitely have a need. I mean, we have an aging fleet, and and Mark's correct. There are a lot of big issues in this state, but this money is specifically federal money, specifically for recreation, and so there are some. It really comes down to just educating these people, because they're not going to know everything about everything. And so it's really important to always be in touch with them and continue to educate them. But yeah, so we'll see. But thank you, Mark. Yeah, we'll see.
And moving into electric snowmobiles and the Taiga event.
Yeah, I'm just going to be really brief here. It was a very good event. It was a week long. I think what we really learned was that this is just such a brand new industry. Vermont would definitely embrace it once it's viable here, but the charging network is just not there yet for it to be viable in all regions of the state. And the technology was really cool. I mean, the machines were fun to ride, and the technology is really interesting, but you've got like a 60-mile radius before you need a full charge, and they're, like I said, it's just a brand new industry, and it's really interesting, and it was neat to learn about. But I definitely think it's quite a few years away from being really, really viable in really anywhere. Because I'm not sure any state. I know Quebec has been putting in quite a few chargers, but I don't know that it's ready for the masses yet, or for long riding.
It's a ways away from being viable for riding like most of us ride. Speaking with the folks, that's one of the reasons why they're concentrating on tour operators and ski areas and people who use it in that type of environment where they're not going long distances through, remote areas. So, yeah, you're not going to buy a Taiga for yourself unless you just got $17,000 and you just want to ride around in your fields. But as Cindy said, it's pretty exciting. And one of the takeaways I got is how many, a lot of you guys have spent a lot more time around the sport than I have. And how many manufacturers and other entities have you seen leave the sport? Just get out. I mean, and it's exciting to see someone actually want to come into the sport. Is it where we want it yet? No, we're not all going to buy it anytime soon, but you can't fault someone who wants to get into the sport. At least that's so encourage them. Doesn't mean you have to buy one, but it's good to see, and it was fun to ride, and And I think there'll come a day when you'll be able to, with the advance of battery technology and stuff, I think there will be a day when you can ride it a little bit further and it'll be more useful. The other thing is they're putting in a series of chargers, and I specifically asked them about places like the relays up in Quebec. And that's the type of places they want to put chargers where snowmobiles will be. And still, that's not perfect either, because, we've all been to a gas station like out in Groton at Upper Valley Grill when there's a line of sled. It takes long enough when it only takes you 5 or 10 minutes to fill up your sled, let alone having to charge it for half an hour. So there are limitations, but we're at the beginning of this journey, and I think it's a positive. And they had really positive feelings about VAST and snowmobiling in Vermont, and I think it put us in a good light.
I agree. Any questions for Cindy on the Taiga event?
I have a question.
Okay.
Did anybody see the video that they posted on Facebook?
I saw a couple of different videos posted on Facebook.
The one I saw was the guy talking about getting ready to introduce the things, and there what looked to be a fire in the background of blue smoke, and he said, "Oh, there goes the two-stroke snowmobiles."
Yep, I saw that. It was kind of funny.
I didn't think it was funny. I don't see how that shines a good light on it.
No, not really.
We used to have that problem many years ago in Island Pond. I don't deny that one bit, but I really think we've come an awful long ways from that point.
No, and I guess I should reword that. It struck me as funny that there was such a cloud, because it was that way years ago when we'd be up in Island Pond or any area where there's a massive, pile of sleds.
Absolutely.
They smoked a lot more back then, It was kind of interesting that, and those were all relatively new sleds. They had to over oil the hell out of them to get them to smoke like that. It kind of struck me as funny.
I think it was a little cold that morning too.
I didn't see the video, so I don't know where they were, if it was actually at the event that we were holding or not.
He was in a field by himself.
Yes.
Just away from where all of those two-stroke snowmobiles were being started up. But over the crest of the hill behind him, it was a blue smoke. It wasn't from a snowmobile.
No, it actually didn't. Milo, correct me if I'm wrong, most of those sleds had flags on them. They almost looked like tourist sleds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, in the video I saw.
Yes.
So a couple of takeaways. One is you can't control the media. You cannot control what the media is going to say. And the other thing is I had real frank conversations with Taiga themselves about, that this is a new industry, but it's not ever going to take over, or at least not in my lifetime, gas-powered snowmobiles. And the best way to attract those that you want to convert over is to speak respectively about the sport that they enjoy and love so much, that there's an immense amount of tradition in this sport and loyalty, and not just about gas powered and electric. I mean, just, think about how much you razz your friends when you're riding all skidoos and there's one guy on a Polaris, or everybody's on a Polaris and there's one guy with a skidoo, and I talked to them about that, and they get it. Taiga actually gets it, but some of the media, you just can't, and it's just going to be that way. And even Jim Hill sent me sorry, Jim, I'm putting you on the spot again. Jim, sent me an email when I first talked about Taiga, and he said, he goes, great job. I remember back when 4-strokes were invented, and everybody thought that was going to be the end of snowmobiling, and the end of the 2-stroke. So I get what you're saying, Milo. It does hurt when you see things like that, because it just shows that people don't actually understand that what we do and how much we care about the environment. And it is frustrating, but I did have those conversations with the company themselves, and I think it'll be different when you see Skidoo and Polaris and all these guys that are also developing electric, how they have it, because they're not switching over to completely electric. They're just developing something else to offer.
Kurt?
I think the cool concept for the electric snowmobile would be to have removable battery packs. You know, that you could slide out, you know, pull into a store, slide them out, put them in a rack. It's a charging rack. You pay for 2 batteries, you know, fully charged, slide them in your slide and you go.
Yeah,
I talked to him
But you
about
know,
that.
but still with that, I mean, it's a great concept, but with that, with the volume of sleds that we have on our trails, it wouldn't be viable. But for ski areas or places where they needed those machines to be fully charged most times, they could easily swap out, you know, if it were possible.
That was Mark's idea, like
Yep.
propane tanks. How you get a new propane tank for your grill?
Yep.
Just have all the shops and restaurants have those like cages. You just, you know,
Exactly.
The size of the battery though is the length of the seat. So
Yeah.
and then some, and the width of the tunnel, the length of the seat.
Yep.
And it has an actual heating / cooling system through it as well. So
No kidding.
great concept, but I don't think it'll work.
Doesn't sound too viable.
No.
Not yet, but you never know.
It was still
True.
cool to see him out there, and it looked like you had a great turnout for it.
Just Jim.
I think it's a good concept. It's early, it's just starting, but it's no different than right here at the airport. They're developing electric aircraft.
Yep.
Yeah.
So think about that. I mean, it's a direction that's going to go. And Cindy's right. All of the other manufacturers are going to come on board. Are any of us going to buy it tomorrow or next year? No. But all of this stuff started somewhere.
Yes. You know, it's interesting because I mean, you see more and more. There's more boating companies. You know, boat manufacturers, motor manufacturers that are actually there's outboards popping up and what have you. But Elco boats have been around since the 30s and 40s, and they've been doing electric boats for years. You know, and they do work. There's actually one over on Lake George in the Hen and Chicken Islands that sits at these people's dock. It's a beautiful Elco, and it's not a small boat. This is a good sized boat, probably a 30-footer, but it's electric. It's been around for forever and a day. You know, the technology will work. I remember going through the Thomas Edison Museum down in Florida in 1979, and they had an electric forklift that Edison had built with his own batteries that he had put in this thing. And those in 1979, the batteries still held their original charge, and it was still fully functional from when Thomas Edison was alive. You know, it's all possible.
But I think we should thank Cindy, though. I think it really showcased Vermont a little bit.
Absolutely.
And there was nothing bad that came out of this as far as I'm concerned. It was just all positive.
I agree. Well, yeah, not only that, it doesn't have to be Taiga, the electric snow. If Skidoo came to us and said, hey, can you do something to help us with a press event? We'd hop all over that too.
Absolutely.
That was the big thing, is that instead of them going out to California, to Lake Tahoe, we said, hey, come down here and visit us 2 hours away. And they were impressed with what we had in terms of trails, in terms of facilities, in terms of location, and it worked really well for them. And that's a big takeaway, is that we again, if Polaris or Skidoo wanted to do something here, we would jump on board with helping them too. So it's not like we're pushing this or that or whatever. We're just saying we're here to work with anybody who's interested in the snowmobiling industry. And that's important, that we got more people interested in it.
Well, and they brought in national press, didn't they? Like Snowgoer Magazine and some of those people. So,
well, Car and Driver, they concentrated on EV people instead of outdoor recreation people for the time being.
Really?
That was this. So they had like the review I read from Car and Driver was similar to what we were saying. You know, the guy grew up riding snowmobiles, and he said, you know, this is a great thing, but most people ride longer than this, and same drawbacks. So yeah, but it was in national press. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so that helps showcase Vermont as a snowmobile destination as well.
Yeah.
I would assume that Snowgoer and Snowtech Magazine might have been here, but if they weren't, they weren't. But it would have been great if they had brought those guys in as well, because, you know, they obviously can shed a positive light on the Vermont system.
Those guys actually had their hands on them last winter or real early this year.
Right.
They've already had the experience. So
Yeah, this
Yeah,
was
they're up
like,
in Canada.
this was like Mark said, Car and Driver, Forbes magazine, the
Forbes, yeah.
Washington Post, you know, and then they had some YouTube guys. They had people that, you know, just focus on electric stuff anyway, you know, things like that. So that's why there's like some, you know, I didn't see Milo what YouTube video you were talking about, but I could definitely see there were some people that were just there because it was electric. And then there were other people there that were more interested in other aspects of it.
Well, I mean, don't misunderstand. I'm not opposed to the technology. I was just disappointed with the presentation within just a couple of minutes that we're going back down that road. And I get it, what you're saying. You can't control the media, but not being knee deep in the hoopla anymore and watching that as just Joe Smo, it was like, well, that's kind of unfortunate, was my thought.
It is unfortunate. I agree with you. It is.
I saw that video and I agree with you. You just have to bolt a solar panel on the back of your helmet and plug that into the sled. So when you're riding, it charges.
You trailer it up there with your all electric Ford F-150 and charge it as you're going.
All right. I think we're getting a little off track here.
Yeah.
Trails Administrator Report, ED Report, LVRT Report. Cindy, anything that you would like to add on
No,
yours?
thank you. Nope,
Okay.
all set.
This, Julianne, would probably be the spot to discuss your question. And I don't know if Matt's got any sort of an answer for you or not.
Yeah, I just wonder why that happens. Or why, I mean,
Go ahead.
no, I assume the board must have said that it was okay, but I don't understand why somebody who is for profit can come to and get money and take it away from clubs that are volunteer and working really hard, and he can come and get money. And I don't mean just Jesse. I mean any contractor that's for profit. There's other resources for him to get money, and for a contractor, I'm just going to say a contractor, a for-profit contractor to come to VAST and get money, that's taking money away from clubs that are struggling. And with the last couple of years, the clubs are really struggling. Equipment is getting older, and you know we didn't have the snow this year, and just other things. So I just feel like there's other resources for people that are for profit.
Yeah, like these grooming contractors are groomed in place of a club, so it's really no different than a club. I mean, it's for their own business, but when we have a bad winter, they lose money too. Like
Right,
Jesse's,
but he's still for profit. They're still for profit. So there's other organizations. He can go to USDA. He can go to small business. He can go to Farmers Union. There's a lot of other resources that he could go to that our volunteer clubs cannot go to. He's not a club. He may groom and he gets a grooming contract like a club, but he's not a club. He's a for-profit, and I'm just saying for-profit contractor because it doesn't matter to me if it's Tom, Dick, and Harry or that it's Jesse Lambert. It's just we have and we know we all struggle with how much money we don't have to give to these clubs, and I know you do your best to stretch it out and as fair and evenly as you can. And then you put somebody that's for profit in the mix, it just doesn't work for me.
Well, I can clarify one thing. He's not eligible for USDA grants. A for-profit organization is not allowed. But the reason, Julianne, the reason is because the clubs don't want to groom, and there's no one else to groom those trails. So if another club maybe wants to come in, I mean, that's as much as I know. I know like the outside. No, Matt, go ahead. But that's my understanding is that it's not that he's taking over. It's that the club doesn't have anyone to groom or doesn't have a groomer. And so they're asking him to come in and do it. Matt, am I right about that or
no? That's correct. It's what I'm saying. They're grooming in place of a club that doesn't want to groom. So, I mean, he's not a club, but I mean, the only time he runs that equipment is for the club. It's not like an excavator where he can go work for anybody. He's grooming solely for VAST with it. So we've always given grants to contractors. I mean, it's something we look at. I'm generally pretty careful when we do that, but like that machine, when Buzzy Eastman got out of grooming over there, we'd given him grants for his equipment. And then Tristan Bond took over from Buzzy, and we gave him a grant to buy that equipment. And then when he got out of it, Jesse bought the equipment and took it over because the Buckaroos didn't want to groom. They don't want to groom. So he reached out this year about fixing his equipment. He's put, I want to say he's replaced the rear end in that machine 4 times on his own. And he's putting heavier duty rear ends in it at this point. Some out of the 2018 Tuckers with the heavier rear ends. So he hopefully doesn't have to change it. Tristan Vaughn also had problems with the rear ends in that machine when he ran it as well over there. I think he replaced them 4 times in that machine. So machines had like 10 different machines.
Right. And my other thought on this is, and this is just just my thought. I know, we all know that we have too much equipment for the mileage that we have. And and this is just a conversation, because I know that we talk about it, but we're not clubs consolidating. But I know, but when we hire somebody else, we're not encouraging that consolidation either. And I know with the cost of equipment and the cost of fuel, is this where we start having that serious conversation that we talk about it? I think we've been talking about it since I've been on the board, and maybe it's been going on longer, but maybe this is, and again, this is just not part of that conversation, but just my mindset is maybe this is where we start saying, clubs have to start considering consolidating. I mean, I know it's a big picture, but I feel like we say we want them to do this, but then we're hiring other contractors. And I know it's not a perfect world, and I know it's not going to happen overnight, but it's, like I said, just a thought.
That's a good thought.
Jeff Halpin?
I had a question along the lines of this. There's some really good points brought up here, but I think what we have to also be careful of is we do have clubs that don't want or can't groom. And the way I look at some of these contractors is that they are kind of consolidation. If you look at Jesse, he's taken over several areas that the clubs haven't been able to take care of. I know that there's some litigation going on the Waterbury side of things this year, but to me, the contractors could be the answer to some of that consolidation, because they are willing to move their machines around and do different areas. And the other side is what we got to be really careful of is if we ever made a choice not to allow them for any kind of individual grants or to help them out, we don't want them to disappear, because then we have clubs that can't groom and then we don't have nobody to do them. So that's just a couple of things that I wanted to bring up. So
yeah.
Any other comments along that line? One of the other things that was kind of included with Matt's stuff were minutes from the Trails Committee meeting, which actually, as I was reading over them this weekend, did a pretty good job of outlining the presentation of what the resource committee gave us. And that's one of the reasons why we decided not to do the presentation to the board tonight. There's a lot of information there. A lot of information needs to be looked at a little deeper. Obviously, the end result is, in order to get more money for grooming, the price of something has to go up, and the price of that is the TMA. So there's recommendations within the presentation for TMA increases. We need to look at that a little bit closer to see how we implement or how we propose the options. The resource committee has done tremendous amount of work, and I appreciate their input, and they are not going on hiatus. They are going to stay employed. And we're putting together a working group to kind of assist them to look into some of this stuff a little bit deeper, review some of our current methods of paying for grooming. Because yeah, it works okay, but is there a better way to do it? So that's why you guys aren't going to get the full presentation this month. We've got a list of people that we're going to reach out to establish this working group. And we'll come to you guys with a little bit more details. Probably not next month, but probably we'll give you at least a 30,000 foot view, maybe in May, along with the results of our special trails meeting that's in May as well. So, but there was quite a bit of productive discussion in the trails meeting around the resource committee presentation. And we need to adopt some of that into some of the work that we're going to work on as well. So don't feel that, you know, you're being kept in the dark. You're not. We all kind of figured that it was going to come down to, we need more money. And the only way to get more money is to raise the price of the TMA. So we just need to be a little strategic on the way we do it. Whether we do it, you know, in one big blast, or we try to stagger it over the next couple of years.
Jeff, I'm gonna there's a couple of questions I'm gonna ask. You're saying looking at May presenting. So who is actually going to be doing the presenting? Will it be the resource committee, or has this now been put onto the trails committee to move forward with?
I don't have an answer to that question. It will be some combination thereof.
Okay.
And I understand you had several pages of questions.
Yes, I did. And I had a very short, condensed and to the point conversation, yes, with Cindy about this, because of information that came to me quite fast and furious after your trails committee meeting from some people. So yeah, that was actually the first thing I went to when I got the packet to look through and make my own things, but that's fine. I'm more than happy to compile an email and carbon copy Brian Courier, the chair of that committee, along with Matt, yourself, and Cindy on it with my thoughts and my questions. But I do want to wait until after our county meeting next Monday before I actually do that.
Yep.
So.
And I will encourage any directors or alternate directors to get in touch with your county trails coordinators, and they can kind of fill you in on some of the details. And as Carmen is going to do, I am more than open to accepting emails, phone calls with questions, ideas. Probably emails would be better. And like Carmen was going to do, copy Matt and Brian. So we all kind of have the same information. But yeah, this definitely is gonna, need a little discussion on a couple of different fronts. Even, take a barometer reading of your clubs and see how, how they feel about, raising the price of the TMA. Kurt?
I think it's gonna be a tough year after the season that we had. It's gonna be tough to ask for an increase next year. When when you're skating around the old interwebs and seeing comments on the year and, the season that we had or the season that wasn't. You got people screaming that, oh, they'd love to see a refund or a break because we didn't have a full season. These are the people that don't think about they don't look at the big picture. They look about the $150 they shelled out or whatever. They see the couple $100 they shelled out for the season. Okay, and they're snowmobilers. They don't think about the fact that winter sports in general are expensive. Okay, you're still getting a great value for your dollar as far as I'm concerned. But it's it's gonna be tough not to present to the membership. I think that's it.
And that's one of the things that we need to work on is to back up our request with facts and figures and make some of these people realize that what you're getting now is a real good deal for what it costs to actually put those trails on the ground.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we that do the work, we all understand.
Yep.
It's tough to educate the ones that don't want to be educated. I mean, it's evident by the lack of respect on the trails these days.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to know that they're not supposed to be doing 90 miles an hour on the wrong side of the trail. They don't want to know that they should have actually studied their safety course manual instead of cheated their way through it on their smartphone. The sport is changing, and some of it's not for the better. It's just tough. It's getting tougher for us. And costs just going up across the board with everything. I get it.
Yep. I've got Cindy, Julianne, and then Carmen. Cindy?
So yeah, I just wanted to add a couple of things. So, it's not ready for prime time yet. That's the whole reason that Jeff is kind of like not going into detail, because we could sit here for 3 hours and talk about
Absolutely.
and I don't mean Kurt about what you just said, but that's why, Jeff decided to go this route. Just to give you a timeline and just to remind you that the resource committee did interview 12 counties, which took a tremendous amount of time. So a lot of the information that they got came from the counties themselves. It wasn't just these 3 guys sitting in a room devising a plan. So timeline wise, just to let you know, if you're going to vote on anything, it's going to have to be voted on in July or August. So there is still plenty of time for these guys to do the work they're going to do. And like Jeff said, come back to you in May, sort of, just at least an update, 35,000 foot update. And then hopefully June, come back with some sort of idea for you guys to discuss and then maybe even vote on, or have at least another month to go back to your counties to then vote on in July. Jim, remind me, how long is it 30 days that we have to, for the annual meeting? So it would have to be voted on. It would have to actually be voted on in July, because the August meeting is at the end of August, and unless you did a special board of directors meeting in early September, early August. So it would have to be July, because that's a month and a half out from the board, or from the, if you're going to have an increase, because that's a month and a half out from the annual meeting. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Julian?
So just 2 things. One, thank you, Jeff, for not bringing it to a vote, because our Orange County Trail Coordinator was very there was just so much information that to be able to create something to vote on was too much at this time, is how he felt. So
Yeah.
Thank you, because he was really concerned that we would be voting on something tonight. Second, when talking about what we get for our money, I know that a lot of us that have been to the trade shows, that we have a lot of these discussions already with other people. So maybe we could create with New York and like, well, we don't come and ride because you're so expensive. But then when we sit down and tell them what they get for their money with, you know, the GPS map is free. We have our ambassador program. Our trails are connected to the groomers, so you know when they've been groomed out, and all of these things. Maybe we could create a graph that, you know, that shows different states and what they charge and then what we charge, but what we give people. And a lot of people are like, oh, we don't have that. Oh, we didn't realize that. Really, we can call the VAST office and get an ambassador to take us out and around if we're not familiar with the area. Absolutely. So I think really promoting our product when we, and then my understanding is this money is going to go to trails anyway, but you know, maybe that's something we could use as a marketing tool or leverage or whatever. Just
That was one of the things that needed to be fleshed out a little bit, so to speak. So, Carmen.
Just a quick comment on something that Julianne just had said. When we compare ourselves to other states, we have to keep in mind that a lot of those states are actually run by the state. We are not. We are our own individual nonprofit. We are not run by the state of Vermont, where a lot of those other states are. So in some ways, we're kind of comparing apples to orange. But I understand her what she's trying to get at in asking for information. I'm not opposed to it. I just think that we always have to keep that in mind in that regard. But that was not my question. My question, and Cindy, I think this is more for you or anybody that can remember, because I'm trying to go back and give some thought. The last time there was an actual TMA price increase, if I remember correctly, it was a couple years ago, and that was $20. I might be wrong on that. I'm just kind of looking for that information. It was a $5 increase, Jeff?
Yeah, it was a $5 increase that was voted on 3 years ago, so it took place 2 years ago, and the 100% of it goes to trails.
Right.
Yeah. And that was, as I recall, that was added at the annual meeting from the floor? Or
Yes.
not?
And that's probably why I don't remember if it was added from the floor, because I didn't have it actually right in front of me in writing. But it's okay. I just wanted to ask, because I'm sure that somebody's going to ask me the last time and how much. So I'm just trying to get as much information as I can when this comes up for our county folks. That's all. Thank you.
Yep. And Carol put in the question in the chat. The first recommendation is 20, but 30 and 40 have also been discussed. So that's another reason why we need to, do a little more work. So we can all try to get on the same page to come up with a way to sell this and get the money where it needs to go. But yes, any increase is being directed either specifically at grooming or grooming and trails / equipment, depending on what the increase is.
Jeff, can I just say this? Because I mean, the resource committee got that's a heavy load that we asked them to kind of take on, or that Tim kind of asked them to take on behalf of this board.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's been a couple years, and I mean, Cindy can even tell you this. When I first started getting the information, it was very frustrating. But she did remind me that we kind of handed them something that was a mess that this board tried to hash out itself and couldn't do. So, I know that's going to take time, and everything takes a little bit of time, but it's a lot. We handed them a lot to kind of look at and come back to us on. And I think that them getting maybe some extra support wouldn't be a bad idea by any means. But I'd like to, thank them for taking their time, because, they're volunteers just like all of us. So.
Yep, absolutely. And they have as Ivor mentioned it to me this afternoon when I chatted with them on the phone, a ton of material.
Thank you, Carmen.
I heard 20 pages or some insane amount of information.
Well, Carmen, I appreciate you saying that too. And I also would like to remind you guys that this does not need to go to a vote before annual meeting. You could decide, just depending on the information you're going to be getting in the next couple of months, decide to continue to push this down the road, which is not a wrong thing to do. I mean, this is a big thing. And what Carmen said was not the words I used. I said bag of SHIT is what they were handed.
We're recording. I was trying to be politically correct.
I know. Well, I spelled the word. You know, and it was something, you know, so anyway, so yeah, it just needs a lot of thought, and it needs a lot of you know, some more work and a lot of thought and communication and all of that.
Let's see, where else?
Hey, Jeff.
Yes, Milo.
And Cindy. This year, I actually got a chance to ride in Maine and not in Rangeley. And I understand now why the trail pass in Maine is $40. Because I actually got $40 worth of grooming and signing. And if I didn't have a GPS, I would probably be still stuck up there by the train somewhere in the damn Allagash. Get out.
Funny. Nice to know, Milo. Thank you.
Plates are cheap.
So you got the small pizza box, not the big pizza box, right?
Oh no, these weren't even pizza boxes. This was an old sign that hadn't been updated so that the magic markers were completely worn out. It came to a four-way intersection, and trails went in all four directions, and there was absolutely nothing there. And you were 40 miles out from a gas stop. And we got directions. I kid you not. We got directions from a guy from Maine that said, you go up until you get to the sand pit and you take a left, and it'll eventually bring you to the trains after you go 20 miles across the lake. That nailed it down for me. I couldn't wait.
Yep. Just hope you had the right sand pit.
Yeah. And a gas caddy full.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I like it when you come to an intersection up there and they've got one sign at a four-way intersection. It's got one nail in the middle and you can spin it.
Yes, we saw that too.
So
But
you place your guesses to where you want to go and you spin it and you follow the arrow.
in all seriousness, selling a price increase isn't that hard when you go to the gas pump. You know, I mean, we were, as you guys all see, we were just in Quebec this weekend, and gas up there to snowmobile averaged $1.82 a liter.
Yep.
And diesel was over $8 a gallon. So it's over $5 here.
Yep.
So, you know, everybody knows that the clubs don't have any money. The clubs can't shoulder that kind of burden. God only knows what's going to happen this summer. Let's go, Brandon.
Ken, anything that you'd like to add to your LVRT report?
I forget what I said. I'll just let people know there's a public meeting. If you want to participate in any of those public meetings for the management plan, there's another one tomorrow night. So just be aware of that. They'll be starting up construction again soon. It's kind of up to each contractor when they want to start again, but we've told them that our season is over. So as far as the LVRT goes, they're free to work.
And everything is under contract now?
Yeah, it's all under contract. They've all had their pre-construction meetings. Most of them have started doing some actual work.
So are we kind of still on track for in the next summer?
As far as I know, there always could be permitting or cost hangups that or unanticipated, but I've not heard otherwise.
Or supply chain issues.
Mhm.
Thank you. Any questions for anybody on the reports? Okay.
Jeff, can I just say one thing? I just actually want to say, welcome back, Brian. I know it's not in the seat I'm in, but welcome back.
Thank you. Jeff didn't tell me about all this stuff coming up when he recruited me.
Well,
you like surprises.
I didn't want
For those of you that don't know, Brian is now, Jeff has asked him to be the chair of the Trails Committee. But for those of you that don't know and are new to our board, Brian was also a director on this board for a few years before I actually started. So what years were you on the board, Brian?
I was on the board from 2009. Oh, actually, I was an alternate before that for 3 or 4 years. I think I left in what, 12 or 13.
Yeah,
I
I
had a
started
relatively short term on the board.
compared to some.
Yes.
compared to Kenny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And again, Brian, I appreciate you taking on that task, and we'll try not to overload you too bad.
I'm gonna call you when I need some help.
Absolutely. I've got other people I can call too. So committee reports, Northeast Chapter and USA. Nothing right now that I can think of. Pat, anything?
Met last 2 weeks ago. There's still a lot of stuff going on out west with national parks and national forest and Bureau of Land Management dealing with the feds, and they also don't expect the changes to the RTP program that they were hoping for when Trump was president. So that's probably been written off. Other than that, no, it's. And oh, by the way, out west, they're having a problem with off-trail riding.
Imagine that. Snow Trails Conservancy, Jim?
Nothing.
Okay. Law enforcement, Cindy, anything? Okay. We took care of the LVRT. Awards and nominating, Patty.
I do. First, we want to welcome Amber Stevens, who joined the committee last month. So she's new to the team, so we're happy to have her on board. Just want to remind folks that May 1st is the deadline for award nominations. So please let your counties know to get those nominations in. They can't do it online. They can handwrite it and send it to the VAST office. Just needs to be postmarked May 1st. Scholarships, we had a small pool of scholarship candidates this year, but they were really, really good candidates. So the top 2 scorers that were literally just 1 point apart from each other was, and you guys are hearing it first after the officers, Dustin Belloing, if I'm saying that right, from the Country Riders Snowmobile Club of Orleans County, and Nicole Fullerton from Long Hill Snowmobile Club of Windsor County. So very excited about those. Mandy already has the letters to go out to them tomorrow, so they'll be receiving their official notification. And I already sent the next Dustin's up to the next level, Pat, pull in for the Northeast Chapter. So I've submitted that today as well. So that's all taken care of. That's it. Oh, and our contact at Vermont Awards Engraving is no longer there. So it'll be interesting because I went for the badges, Cindy, I see you looking at me, and I was told that he no longer works there. So we'll see how that goes this year. Hopefully we'll meet our timelines and stuff like that. So that's it.
Thank you. Oh, let's see what else we got. Bylaws and policy. Julianne.
Nothing as of yet.
No, that's Mark. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's Mark.
Nothing as of yet, because I've got to get with you and see what you had on the back burner, ready to cook for bylaws changes or anything like that.
Mark, you and I will do that. Jeff and I were planning a meeting. So you and I can just, I mean, Jeff, you can participate if you want, but anyway, what Jeff and I have been doing is just working our way through the bylaws page by page and wordsmithing and stuff like that. So you and I can just plan, a meeting and do that page by page together.
All right. Like I said, I wasn't sure if Jeff had anything he was working on specifically. So, okay.
Not specifically that I recall. Keep me posted on the meeting, Cindy, if you would, please.
Yeah, maybe.
I know you will, but annual meeting. Essex.
Well, John's not here. Dave Domenico Jr., are you still around? Do you want to talk about that, or you want me to give an update? There really isn't an update, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if. Okay.
I don't see him here. I think he left the meeting.
All right.
Yeah, there are no updates. The meeting September 10th. If folks don't know, it's in Island Pond. Book your reservations, your camping locations, or whatever if you're going to be spending the night up there. It is outdoors, the venue.
Executive committee, nothing financial. We've already had that. Anything to add, Patty?
Yeah, just, Cindy kind of has in her report too, in the last two reports, that we'll be getting together to do the budget. So at some point, so soon. But that's next on our agenda.
Fun. Long range, Mark, anything?
Nothing specific. We're still in the process of getting our license approved. I think, I forgot the date that I saw DFR. There's still some final wordsmithing to be done about different classes of owners and stuff like that. I was going back and forth today, but it should be on track.
Okay.
Wait, may I ask Mark a quick question, if that's okay?
Sure.
Mark, do you think that this insurance will be ready to roll for next season with it, or?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, we should have our license end of April. Is that what Christina was saying? Something like that. So it should be in the next month or so. We should be licensed.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Resource committee, Ivor, anything you'd like to add?
Sure. We gave our presentation last Monday night to the Trails Committee. Like I think Cindy mentioned earlier, it's a compilation. It's not the three of our committee members' ideas that of what we thought was best. It's a compilation of the year and a half's worth of meetings that we've had with all of you guys, and your thoughts and ideas, and just basically the summary and all the data and information that we've collected from that is pretty much what the presentation is about, and what you guys felt would be the best recommendation. So Jeff will work a little bit more on that, and we'll be as involved as he wants us to be, and go from there.
Oh, trust me, you'll be involved.
Jeff, should we include Ivor in that committee on any emails that we send to you guys, or just Ivor? I don't know.
Yeah, I think if you include Ivor with any of your questions or comments, that'd be great.
Okay.
That'll just add to the stack of information they already have.
Sorry, Ivor.
Personnel.
Do we have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow night at 4:30?
Yes.
Glad you reminded me of that, Julie.
You're welcome.
Trails, Brian, anything? No.
We had a meeting last week, and we had the resource committee's report. So that's already been pretty well beat, I guess. But Yeah, I mean, I think that's about it.
The only other thing is the special May trails meeting, for anybody that's looking for new trails to be added or changes to your grooming mileage. That needs to get to Matt a week before the May meeting, which is, yeah, whatever it is.
It says May 9th in his report.
Perfect. Thank you, Carmen. I knew somebody would throw me the bone. So, and that's our pretty much standard May special meeting. Most of your clubs have been through it before, so. Safety, anything, Stan?
Well, the last month's meeting was a tough one. Nobody showed up. I was right after that big snowstorm, so I'm assuming people were all out riding. But we have gotten our signs in. They've all come in. Those two new safety informational signs. And I wrote a short article for Beth, and I think they took pictures of the new signs. So they'll be in the next edition, I believe, of the VAST magazine, so that we can kind of get it out there and people will be aware of it. And we did discuss it at the Trails Committee, or I'm sorry, at the county meetings.
Okay, great. Governor's Council, Pat?
Not a lot of change from the month before. DMV is still reporting 21,343 registrations. State Police reported 29 classroom safety students and 1,557 online students for a total of 1,586, which is down significantly, although last month was a jump of 340 students. So that's about it.
I'm giving a safety course in 2 weeks in Washington.
Good.
Another 20 kids.
Nice.
You almost double the classroom numbers.
We have lots of pencils. I mean, thousands that say VAST on. So if people want pencils to give to their students, just let me know, and how many you want. Mandy can ship them to you if you have instructors that want them for classes.
And
Or just send Mandy an email.
And I question, I guess, that classroom number a little bit, because we had one class and it was a small one for us. We only had roughly 15 kids in it. But if we had the one with 15, I know Woodford, I think, hosted 3 different dates. It seemed that they would have more than we had total. So the 29 number just seems low. That's all.
Depends on if they've sent the information in either.
Well, those classes were December, January, and February.
True.
Okay. Anything else anybody has to bring up? Questions, comments? Going once, going twice. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Rutland County will make a motion.
I have Rutland and I need a second.
Chittenden.
Chittenden is the second. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Thank you all.
Cheers, everybody. Safe travels back to your living rooms.